She had always been loyal. She had always trusted humans. But that trust led her to a cruel and unthinkable fate. A female German shepherd, buried alive, her entire body trapped beneath the earth, with only her head barely sticking out. The scorching sun burned her skin during the day, and the cold rain soaked the dirt around her at night. She couldn't move. She couldn't escape. She could only wait. For days, she fought against exhaustion, starvation, and the crushing weight of the soil. Her breaths grew weaker. Her hope faded. She should not have survived. But then, something happened. Something so shocking that it left everyone speechless. Stay until the end, because this story will make you question everything you thought you knew about cruelty, survival, and loyalty. The sun was scorching, beating down mercilessly on the dry, cracked earth. A faint breeze rustled the nearby weeds, but it did nothing to relieve the suffocating heat. The air smelled of dust, damp soil, and something else. Desperation. Partially buried in the dirt, with only her muzzle and exhausted eyes visible above the ground, lay a German shepherd. Her body was completely trapped, pressed beneath the weight of the earth. She could barely breathe. The soil pressed against her chest, making every inhale a struggle. Her legs were pinned beneath layers of packed dirt and rocks, leaving her helpless. The only part of her free from the grave was her head, just enough to keep her alive, but not enough to let her escape. Her name had once been Luna. She didn't know how long she had been there. The passing of time blurred together. Day and night no longer meant anything. All she knew was pain, thirst, and the slow, agonizing realization that no one was coming for her. The betrayal had come swiftly. Luna had wagged her tail when she saw the man approach. The man she had trusted. The man whose scent she had known all her life. But instead of affection, there had been cold hands grabbing her, forcing her to the ground. The sound of a shovel cutting into the earth. The weight of soil being thrown on top of her, pressing her down, inch by inch, stealing her freedom. She had struggled at first, whining, thrashing, trying to claw her way out. But the weight was too much. Now, she had no energy left. Her mouth was dry, her throat raw from silent cries that had gone unanswered. The sun burned her fur by day. The rain soaked her by night. The hunger gnawed at her belly. But the thirst was worse. Her tongue hung limply from her mouth, cracked and dry. Every drop of moisture had been stolen from her body. But still, she fought to survive. She had to. Even though she didn't understand why this had happened. Even though the person she had loved most had done this to her. Her ears twitched at a faint sound in the distance. Footsteps. Her heart pounded weakly against her ribs. Was it him? Had he come back? No. Something was different. The steps were lighter, slower, hesitant. Luna forced her eyes to open, lifting her head as much as she could. The dirt cracked around her, sending a small cloud of dust into the air. The scent hit her first. A human, but not the one she feared. A woman. Her breath came out in weak, desperate gasps. She wanted to bark, wanted to call out, but she couldn't. Her body no longer obeyed her. All she could do was stare. The figure stopped. Silence. Then, a horrified gasp. "Oh my God!" The woman's voice trembled, filled with shock and disbelief. Luna blinked slowly, her ears twitching at the sound. This was it. Her last chance. With every ounce of strength she had left, she did the only thing she could. She whimpered. The moment Emily saw the pair of sunken eyes staring up at her from the dirt, her breath caught in her throat. For a second she thought it was an illusion, that her mind was playing tricks on her. But then, the weakest whimper rose from the ground, barely a whisper against the wind. Emily's stomach twisted in horror. This wasn't just a stray dog resting in the dirt. She was buried alive. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Emily stumbled forward, dropping to her knees. Her hands shook as she reached out, gently brushing away the loose dirt around the shepherd's head. The dog barely reacted. Her breath came in shallow, labored gasps, her cracked tongue hanging limply from her mouth. Her fur was stiff with dried mud, her once strong frame reduced to nothing but bones. How long had she been here? Emily didn't want to know the answer, but one thing was clear. This dog should not still be alive. Her eyes darted around, searching for any sign of who had done this. No footprints, no tools, just the earth, disturbed only where the shepherd lay half buried. Someone had done this deliberately, and they had left her to die. Emily felt rage bubbling up beneath the panic, but she didn't have time for that now. She had to get her out. Emily's hands moved fast, digging frantically at the hardened dirt. Every handful she pulled away revealed more of the shepherd's fragile, starved body beneath. The soil was packed tightly around her, pressing against her ribs, restricting every breath. Emily bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears. She had seen neglected dogs before. She had worked with rescues, had witnessed what cruelty looked like. But this was pure evil. And yet, somehow, the shepherd had survived. Emily wiped the sweat from her brow. Her nails caked with dirt as she dug deeper. Faster. Come on, girl. Stay with me, she whispered. The dog blinked slowly, her ears twitching weakly at the sound of Emily's voice. She was still aware, still holding on. But for how much longer? Emily clenched her jaw and dug faster. The first sign of progress came when she freed the dog's shoulders. Luna's body shuddered as she inhaled a slightly deeper breath, her ribs expanding more freely. Emily's heart pounded. She was running out of time. Almost there, girl. Her voice was softer now, but still urgent. She kept digging. The moment she finally uncovered the shepherd's front legs, the dog tried to move. It was barely a twitch, but it was there. Emily gasped. "You're still fighting." The words sent chills down her spine. After days buried alive, starving, suffocating, this dog still had the will to fight. And Emily was going to make sure that she didn't do it alone. With one final effort, she scooped her arms under the shepherd's fragile body and pulled. At first, nothing happened. Then, with a strained whimper, the shepherd shifted. Emily dug her heels into the dirt, bracing herself, and pulled again. This time, the dog came free. Luna collapsed into Emily's lap, her body so light, so fragile. Emily cradled her gently, feeling every rib beneath her fur, every tremor of her weak, exhausted muscles. Tears burned in Emily's eyes as she stroked the dog's head. "You're safe now." For the first time in days, Luna closed her eyes, knowing somehow that she wasn't alone anymore. Luna's body was limp in Emily's arms, her fragile frame barely rising and falling with each weak breath. She was out of the grave, but she wasn't out of danger. Emily swallowed the lump in her throat as she held the shepherd close, feeling the dog's heartbeat. Weak, unsteady, but still there. "You're safe now," she whispered, but the words felt hollow. She wasn't safe yet. Luna was starving, dehydrated. Who knew how much longer she had before her body gave out completely? Emily couldn't let that happen. She forced herself to move, adjusting her grip around the shepherd's bony body. Luna barely reacted. Her head rested limply against Emily's arm, her once strong legs dangling weakly. Emily clenched her jaw. No time to cry. No time to panic. She needed to get help. Fast. Emily's car was parked a short distance away, but every step she took felt like an eternity. Her arms burned from the weight of carrying Luna's fragile body, but she didn't dare stop. The shepherd's breathing was so faint now that Emily kept checking. Was she still alive? "Stay with me," she murmured, her voice shaking. Luna's ear twitched slightly at the sound, a barely there response that made Emily's heart pound. She was still fighting, and Emily would fight too. She reached the car, struggling to open the door with one hand. She carefully placed Luna in the passenger seat, her bony body barely making an imprint on the cushion. Emily grabbed a bottle of water from the back seat. She twisted the cap open and tried to tilt a few drops onto Luna's tongue. At first, there was nothing. Then, the faintest flicker of movement. Luna's cracked tongue shifted slightly, failing to lap up the water. Emily's throat tightened. She needed medical help. Now. Slamming the car door shut, she threw herself into the driver's seat and gripped the wheel with shaking hands. "Hold on, girl," she whispered. And with that, she sped toward the nearest vet. The drive felt interminable. Emily's hands were white-knuckled against the wheel, her heart hammering in her chest. She kept glancing at the shepherd beside her. Luna hadn't moved. She wasn't responding to her voice anymore. Emily bit her lips so hard she tasted blood. Please. Just hold on. Finally, the clinic sign appeared in the distance. Emily barely slowed as she pulled into the parking lot, throwing the car into park and rushing out. She flung open the passenger door and scooped Luna into her arms once more. The shepherd let out a tiny whimper, the first sound she had made since they left. It was weak. So weak. Emily ran. The clinic doors burst open as Emily stumbled inside. A receptionist looked up, her eyes widening at the sight of the limp, skeletal dog in Emily's arms. I found her, Emily gasped. She was buried alive. She needs help. Please. A vet tech appeared almost immediately. Bring her back now. Emily followed, her pulse thundering in her ears as she laid Luna on the exam table. The vet, an older man with sharp eyes and a firm but gentle touch, leaned over the shepherd. He pressed a stethoscope to her frail chest. Silence. Emily's breath caught. No, she's alive. She's still here. Then, finally, the vet let out a slow breath. Her heartbeat is faint, he said, his voice urgent. She's severely dehydrated and malnourished. We need to get fluids in her now. A vet tech was already moving, hooking Luna up to an IV. Another took her temperature, while a third gently checked her gums. Emily stood frozen, her fists clenched at her sides. Is she going to make it? Her voice was barely a whisper. The vet didn't look up. We'll do everything we can, he said. But Emily heard the unspoken words beneath it. It might not be enough. She swallowed hard, stepping closer to Luna's side. She reached out, gently placing her hand against the shepherd's bony paw. The dog didn't move. Emily squeezed her eyes shut. Please don't give up now. She had fought so hard. She had survived the unthinkable. She just had to hold on a little longer. The clinic room was silent, except for the rhythmic beeping of machines and the soft hum of oxygen flowing through a small tube. Luna lay motionless on the exam table, her body hooked up to fluids, her breathing shallow and uneven. Emily sat beside her, her hands clenched together as she watched the slow rise and fall of the German shepherd's frail chest. Each breath felt like a fragile thread, holding on to life by the thinnest margin. The vet had stepped out briefly, leaving her alone with Luna. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her chest. Emily swallowed hard, leaning closer. You're not alone anymore, girl, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You don't have to fight by yourself. Luna didn't move. Emily reached out, hesitantly brushing her fingers over the shepherd's bony paw. It was cold, too cold. A shiver ran down her spine. What if she didn't make it? Emily clenched her jaw, pushing the thought away. She couldn't think like that. Not now. She glanced at the IV bag hanging beside the table. The slow drip of fluids was her only reassurance that something was being done. But was it enough? Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The door finally swung open, and the vet stepped back inside. His expression was unreadable. Emily shot to her feet. Is she... She's still with us, he said, raising a hand to calm her. Emily exhaled sharply, her knees nearly giving out. The vet moved to Luna's side, checking her vitals again. His face remained serious, but not hopeless. She's in bad shape, he admitted. Severe dehydration, malnutrition, but the IV is helping. If she survives the next 12 hours, she has a chance. 12 hours. That was all it came down to. Emily nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. I'll stay with her. The vet hesitated, then nodded. All right. But let me warn you. She's not out of the woods yet. Emily pulled up a chair beside the table. I don't care, she said. I'm not leaving. The hours crawled by. Emily sat by Luna's side, watching over her like a guardian. She barely moved, afraid that even the slightest shift would somehow disturb the fragile balance between life and death. Night fell. The clinic lights were dimmed, casting long shadows across the walls. Emily rested her arm on the table, her head near Luna's frail body. She felt exhausted, but she wouldn't sleep. Not until she knew Luna would wake up. She had promised. She would stay. Sometime in the middle of the night, Emily felt something. A movement. A twitch. Her heart leaped into her throat. She shot up, eyes wide. Luna's paw, the same one that had once been limp and lifeless, had moved. Emily held her breath. Luna? For a moment, nothing. Then, the faintest flicker of eyelids. Emily's heart pounded. The shepherd's eyes barely cracked open, dull and clouded. But they were open. She was still here. Emily let out a shaky breath, a smile breaking across her face. You're a fighter, aren't you? Luna's eyes blinked sluggishly, and then, ever so slightly, her tail moved. It wasn't much. Barely a twitch. But it was everything. Emily felt her throat tighten. She was going to make it. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she reached for Luna's paw, gently holding it in her hands. I told you, she whispered. You're not alone anymore. And for the first time since she had found her, Luna believed her. The morning sun barely peeked through the clinic blinds when Luna stirred again. It wasn't much, just a slow, weak shift of her paw. But to Emily, it was everything. She had spent the entire night beside her, watching, waiting, hoping. Every breath the shepherd took felt like a fragile lifeline, balancing between survival and the unknown. Now, as dawn cast a soft glow over the room, Luna's eyelids fluttered. Emily sat forward instantly, her heart pounding. Luna, she whispered, barely daring to believe it. The shepherd's dull, sunken eyes cracked open just a little more than before. They weren't bright, they weren't strong, but they were alive. Emily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She's still here. A soft knock on the door made her jump. The vet stepped inside, rubbing his tired eyes. When he saw Luna, awake, however weakly, his face changed. Well, I'll be damned, he muttered. Emily turned to him quickly. She moved. She opened her eyes. The vet came closer, checking her vitals. His expression remained serious, but Emily swore she saw a hint of relief. She's not out of the woods, he reminded her. But this is a good sign. Emily nodded, biting her lip. She already knew that, but seeing Luna respond for the first time filled her with something she hadn't dared to feel since she found her. Hope. The vet pressed gently along Luna's ribs, feeling her fragile frame. She needs nutrients, and we need to start her on soft food soon. She still doesn't have the strength to stand. Emily's hand found Luna's paw again, gently squeezing. We'll get there, she murmured. And for the first time, Luna's paw twitched in response. Emily refused to leave the clinic that day. She sat by Luna's side, waiting, watching, offering gentle touches and soft words. The shepherd, though still dangerously weak, began to respond in small ways. A flick of her ear when Emily spoke, the slow, barely there movement of her tail when she felt a soft stroke against her fur. Each tiny reaction felt like a victory. Then, late in the afternoon, something happened that made Emily's breath hitch. She had stepped away to grab water from the sink when she heard a faint sound, a whimper. Her heart stopped. She turned quickly, eyes wide. Luna's gaze was locked onto her head still resting on the table, but she was watching her. Emily set the cup down and moved closer, her voice gentle. Hey girl. Luna let out another weak, raspy whimper. Emily felt her chest tighten. She dropped to her knees beside the table, her fingers stroking the shepherd's fragile face. You see me, don't you? She whispered. Luna's breathing hitched. Then, the faintest, most fragile movement of her tail. Emily's vision blurred with tears. She was trying. She was still so weak, still barely hanging on, but she was trying. Emily swallowed hard, determination burning in her chest. If you're fighting, then so am I. And this time, Luna didn't look away. That evening, the vet returned with a bowl of soft, liquid food. She won't be able to eat much, he warned. But if she can get a few bites down, that's progress. Emily sat beside Luna, carefully scooping a small amount of food onto a spoon. She held it close to the shepherd's nose, waiting, hoping. For a moment, nothing. Then, a slow, weak movement. Luna's tongue flicked out, just barely touching the food. Emily held her breath. Another small lick. Then another. Emily let out a shaky laugh, tears slipping down her cheeks. The vet nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. She wants to live. Emily stroked Luna's fur. Yeah, she whispered, her throat tight. She does. And for the first time, Luna wasn't just surviving. She was fighting to live. The next few days were a battle. Luna had started eating in small amounts, but her body was still fragile, her strength nearly non-existent. Every movement seemed to take everything she had, and most of the time, she simply lay on her side, resting. Emily never left her. She sat beside the German Shepherd, offering food, water, and soft touches to let her know she wasn't alone. Luna's eyes, once dull and lifeless, began to show something new. Awareness. At first, it was just a flicker. A slow, careful recognition of the world around her. But each day, that flicker grew. She started to shift her paws slightly when Emily came close. She lifted her head a fraction when she heard her voice. Tiny victories, but victories nonetheless. Emily clung to every single one of them. On the fourth morning, Emily sat by Luna's side, gently running her fingers through the shepherd's fur. She sighed. "You know, girl, I don't even know if Luna is your real name." The dog's ear twitched slightly, as if she were listening. Emily smiled, brushing her thumb over Luna's bony paw. "But I think it fits you." Luna's eyes flickered open. It wasn't the first time she had responded to Emily's voice. But something was different this time. She wasn't just aware. She was watching. Emily sat up straighter. "Hey there." Luna didn't move, but her gaze stayed locked onto Emily's. The moment was small, but it felt massive. For the first time, there was no fear in her eyes. Emily's heart clenched. "That's right," she whispered. "You're safe." And then, a slow, delicate movement of Luna's tail. Emily swallowed hard, emotions catching in her throat. "You're really coming back to me, aren't you?" Luna blinked slowly, her weak body still unmoving. But something in her eyes had changed. She was trusting. That afternoon, the vet came in to check on her progress. "She's responding better," he said, carefully feeling along Luna's ribs. "But she still has a long way to go." Emily nodded. "I know." The vet gave her a serious look. "Emily, if you want to take her home soon, she's going to need constant care. She won't be able to walk right away. She'll need physical therapy. She's still incredibly weak." Emily didn't even hesitate. "I'll do it." The vet studied her for a moment before nodding. "All right. We'll give it a few more days to stabilize her." Emily exhaled, turning back to Luna. She had already made up her mind. She wasn't leaving without her. 2 nights later, everything changed. Emily had fallen asleep in the chair beside Luna's bed, exhaustion finally catching up to her. A sudden movement startled her awake. She sat up, blinking against the dim clinic light. And then, her heart stopped. Luna was moving. Not just her paws, her entire body. The German Shepherd was trying to stand. Emily bolted out of her chair. "Luna!" The dog trembled violently, her legs shaking under the weight of her own body. Emily's hands hovered over her, ready to support her if she collapsed. "Take it easy, girl," she whispered. Luna's back legs wobbled, but she didn't fall. She staggered. One small step, then another. Emily covered her mouth, her breath shuddering as tears filled her eyes. "You're doing it," she whispered, voice trembling. "You're standing." Luna let out a soft, raspy whimper, one that didn't sound like pain. It sounded like determination. Emily knelt beside her, brushing a hand over her frail frame. "You are the strongest dog I've ever met." And for the first time since she had been found, Luna looked her in the eye, standing tall, weak, unsteady, but refusing to fall. She wasn't just surviving. She was fighting to live. Luna's first steps were shaky, her legs trembling beneath her fragile frame. But she stood, weak, unsteady, but standing. Emily knelt beside her, her heart pounding with emotion. "You're doing it, girl," she whispered, her voice thick with tears. Luna wobbled, shifting her weight awkwardly. It was clear she wasn't ready to walk far, but she was trying. Emily reached out, steadying her with gentle hands. "It's okay," she murmured. "One step at a time." The German Shepherd leaned against her, pressing into the warmth of Emily's touch. She was trusting her. Over the next few days, Luna's progress became undeniable. She ate more. Her eyes, once sunken and distant, became clearer, brighter. She even started wagging her tail. A slow, hesitant motion at first, but then stronger. And then came the moment Emily had been waiting for. On a quiet morning at the clinic, she sat beside Luna's bed, gently running her fingers through the shepherd's softening fur. "You're ready," she whispered. Luna looked up at her. Emily smiled. "Let's go home." The car ride was quiet, but different from before. The last time Luna had been in this seat, she had been barely breathing. Now, she lifted her head, watching the world through the window. Her ears flicked at passing sounds. Birds, honking cars, the rustling wind. It was as if she was discovering life all over again. Emily reached over, gently rubbing Luna's head. "We made it," she whispered. And for the first time, Luna leaned into her touch. Emily's house wasn't big, but it was warm, safe. Everything Luna had never known before. She led the shepherd inside, giving her space to explore. At first, Luna hesitated. The doorway seemed like an invisible barrier. Emily knelt, holding out her hand. "It's okay," she said softly. Luna stared at her, then at the open door. For a moment, it felt like she was remembering all the places she had been before. The streets, the grave, the pain. Then, with a quiet exhale, she took a step forward. She crossed the threshold. And this time, she wasn't stepping into darkness. She was stepping into home. Days turned into weeks, and Luna became stronger. Her fur grew thick and soft again. The sharp edges of her bones faded as she regained her strength. She began to trust. She followed Emily through the house, learning that love didn't have to hurt. She curled up beside her at night, no longer afraid that she'd wake up alone. She played. She ran. She became the dog she was always meant to be. And one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily sat outside on the porch, watching Luna stretch out in the grass. For a moment, she just admired her, the dog that had been left to die, buried in the earth, now free, alive, thriving. Emily smiled, patting the empty space beside her. Luna looked up. Then, with a slow wag of her tail, she trotted over and sat beside her. Emily wrapped an arm around her. "You never gave up," she whispered. Luna sighed, resting her head against Emily's side, because she didn't need to fight anymore. She was finally home. Luna's journey proves that, even in the darkest moments, hope can rise again. From the brink of death to finding love and safety, she never gave up. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Stay tuned for more incredible stories of resilience and survival.